Hey guys, welcome. In honor of the 10-year anniversary of the Tisserand Institute, I have with me here Hannah and Robert Tisserand, and we are going to talk to them today about how the Institute came to be and what their plans are for the next 10 years of the Institute.
Next 10 years. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
You mean you don't have a detailed plan for every day for the next 10 years?
Yeah, I think I should retire in within those 10 years.
Okay. That's the first time I'm hearing that, so I guess we'll get that in motion.
No, I'm not going to retire. That would be boring.
So just in case there's anybody listening who does not know who the two of you are, would you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
My name's Robert Tisserand, and I've been involved in the aromatherapy spheres since pretty much 1969. So I have written 3 books. I have taught many people many things, and I have formulated many products, published a journal, traveled and lectured. Those things.
Organized conferences,
Yeah, organized conferences, presented at conferences.
consulted with various companies.
Yes, that too. Those things.
Yeah, many things. And my name is Hannah Tisserand, and I've been involved with the Tisserand Institute for pretty much the full decade of its existence. I was born and raised in Prague, the Czech Republic. Currently, we're living in California. And I originally trained to be a translator and interpreter, and then turned business manager, operations manager, and part-time tutor for the Tisserand Institute, and author as well of a few.
And you do many things.
I do many things. Yeah.
So how did you decide to start the Institute in the first place? What gave you the idea?
Well, there was a previous, there have been 2 Tisserand Institutes. So the first one was in London. It started in 1987 and started in 1987 and ran up until 2003. I moved from England to California in 2000. So the last 3 years I wasn't involved in that. And then that was just physical. There was no online training. It was just, in-person training. And then the current Tisserand Institute started in 2014.
Yes.
2014, 10 years ago. How about that? That's only online. So a bit of a contrast to the other one. Why did I start teaching in the first place? Well, because I felt I had something to say to people, and I enjoy teaching, and I like imparting knowledge and seeing people absorb that and make use of it. And so I guess some years after moving to California, I decided to go back to teaching. So in the intervening years, I was mostly traveling, lecturing, and formulating products. And that's how I paid the rent for those years. And now I'm just teaching online.
Okay. Well, and I came when Robert was just about opening the website for the current Tisserand Institute. So I remember my first involvement being, here's a bunch of logos. Which one do you like better?
Just to be clear, we decided we wanted to live together before Hannah got involved in the business. So we were living together, and I would say to Hannah, oh, by the way, I have a question. Do you know anything about X, Y? And she'll go, oh yeah, I can fix that for you. I can help you with that. And that's how it started, really.
Yeah. Well, I think the first Tisserand Institute engagement was literally, which logo do you like best?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I can be blamed for this partly. And the first sort of professional engagement, or in a sort of more organized way was Robert wanted to take his research database and put it into a citations management software. So like a place where you can see all your papers and you can export the citations that we so like to share with everyone. And it was like, hey, I've got a bunch of folders on my computer. Could you make sense of that and put it in the database? I'm like, yeah, sure. Yes, I can.
That proved to be a bit of a project.
Yeah.
That is still ongoing.
Yeah. But that was the first sort of more official situation. I was interested in essential oils before that. It just wasn't something that was my full career or my full how to say, I'm just grasping for words. It wasn't my full focus. It was something I dabbled in. I actually was a representative for both of the big MLMs at one point.
At the same time.
You shouldn't be. I don't think you. Yeah. Well, so I was interested in them. I was interested in perfumery as well. I was interested in complementary medicine, and I was also sort of working within the medical field because that was my specialism as a translator and interpreter. I did a lot of medical translations and interpreting for the World Health Organization and the Czech Ministry of Health. So it was kind of, my interests were always adjacent to what we're doing now.
Your sort of medical interest came from your parents, really.
Yeah. I come from a medical family.
Okay, where did your interest in essential oils stem from?
Mine?
Mm-hmm.
Over to me? Yeah, where did it stem from? Through my mother was really into alternative medicine, so she would go see an acupuncturist or an osteopath or a kind of whatever herbalist, as well as sometimes doctors. So that sort of provided a platform for me as a teenager. Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. And so yeah, I was sort of kind of interested in complementary medicine, alternative medicine. And then my mother discovered aromatherapy through a friend. And in 1967, she went to Paris to hear a talk by Dr. Jean Ballet. I never understood how that worked because she spoke no French at all, and he was speaking in French. So I'm not sure how that worked. Maybe there was a translator there. Probably that's what it was. And she came back with this book, which I happen to have here, Ballet's book, which he kindly signed for her. Get the page. So that's him signing the book in French for my mother in May 1967. So my interest stems from May 1967. Because, what that book did for me was it showed me that aromatherapy wasn't just a beauty thing, as I think my mother was seeing it as in that way, but it could also be healing and medicine. And that was really interesting for me.
So how did you get all the way from there to being one of the leading experts in essential oils?
Well, basically by spending 55 years working at it. That's a bit facetious, but it's also completely true. So I've never, since I started, I've never done anything else. In 1985, I wrote this little book, Essential Oil Safety Data Manual, self-published. Then in 1995, it became this, co-authored with Tony Balash and published by a real publisher. And then in 2014, it became this. And I think it's a good illustration of how my career has been, sort of building on what I did before and making something new and different and interesting.
I think that's the one thing about Robert that I've observed is that he never dwells on something, even if it's successful. Like, okay, so what's the next thing? I've looked into this. What's the next thing? Well, when looking at this, I found this, which is interesting. Let's look at that. So I think that's pretty incredible to see. And also probably one of the reasons why the Tisserand Institute continues to be relevant and Robert continues to be relevant, because it's always about, okay, what's the next thing? What's happening right now? What's new? What's interesting? What's exciting? What's exciting for you? I think that.
And also, you have observed that my career has been quite varied. So
yeah,
I was a practitioner for 18 years. I've done a lot of product formulation work. So I've seen really all aspects of the subject.
When you first started the Institute, how did you decide which course to make first? What did you start with?
Well, the course started with actually webinar series. So that was the first offering that's what you launched with, or what the 2014 launch was called the Complete Skin Series. And it was a series of webinars that developed from Robert's in-person workshop on skincare. Mm-hmm. And it has since developed into our Essentials for Healthy Skin course. With just updated information.
Whole diploma.
I just developed into
another situation where a weekend seminar is now
a whole diploma course.
Yeah,
a year at the Tisserand Institute. So that's how it started. The second one was actually about the therapeutics of essential oils, and from the series, from the webinar series, we were able to kind of sustain the Tisserand Institute for a while, but we were also in the background planning what we wanted to do, what we wanted to launch. And at that time, we called it the Gateway course, because we thought that's the baseline information everybody should know. And we still have a really nicely plotted, okay, there should be some safety, there should be some psychology, there should be some skin, there should be some formulation, there should be some chemistry. But we were plotting and planning, and it was taking a lot of time because we wanted to get it right. And long story short, we needed to start somewhere. And we went to see a business consultant. We talked to her for 2 days. We talked to her for 2 days, explained to her that we feel like we're stuck. We're trying to get this off the ground.
But the reason we spoke to her for 2 days is because she lives in France. She's English, lives in France. We were in Prague at the time, so we flew to France. So it wasn't just a 1-hour meeting, it was more involved.
Focused business. And said, okay, well, you need to do something quick. You need to do something that you know a lot about. So it's not going to take that long time to research. And you should do it as soon as possible. So literally within a week after we left.
She made us commit to some dates.
She made us commit to the importance of having a coach. She made us commit to some dates, and we committed to those dates, and we decided to launch with Essential Safety, because Robert just showed the evolution of the book, thinking, okay, this is something he was known for as an authority on safety, so people will know that they can trust him on that topic. And that's how we developed Essential Safety Masterclass, which is it was from spending months and months on planning how to do things right to actually pulling off a course in the space of, we announced it, and then, about a month, because we just realized, okay, we have to start somewhere. We won't be able to launch the full program immediately. That's how we started with the courses, and we started with safety. Yeah.
What was it like as you were looking at all of this growing and bringing on more tutors, more people outside of just the two of you?
It was really exciting. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it was partly just instinct and partly intention that we wanted to be different to the usual sort of, do our aromatherapy course. It's usually $2,000-ish, and you'll get, a certificate or whatever, and you'll be an aromatherapist. And we wanted to be doing something a bit different. So we went for cohort learning. So not learn at your own pace. You give us the money, and then whenever you finish, if you finish. And we felt that people weren't sufficiently motivated to finish in those situations. And so we wanted to do cohort learning, which means everyone starts on the same day. This is your class. You're in this class, the 2024 safety cohort, or whatever. This is when you finish, and you have one lesson a week, and you get a quiz with the lesson, and you're supposed to finish that quiz before you go on to the next lesson. So it motivates you. And
how does that feel was the question.
How does that feel?
Yeah. How did it feel to grow from the single lesson to bringing on more people? Well, we decided to.
Yes. And the other thing I wanted to do was have an institute that wasn't mainly one person teaching, as a lot of institutes are in aromatherapy. And I felt, okay, I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything. Let's find some other people to teach us.
Yeah, let's find people who know more about those things. So, finding Joy Bowles, who has been known in the world of aromatherapy as somebody who talks about chemistry in an approachable way, and telling her, okay, how would you like to teach for us? And talk about chemistry, which is your specialty. And, she has an incredibly unique talent of making chemistry fun, inspiring. And I'm always amazed at how many people who dreaded chemistry when they were in high school or whenever they learned chemistry end up purchasing molecule kits and start making their own little molecules from those kits, because it's fun and it's relatable and it's also practical. We were looking for someone to help us teach formulation, because we wanted to do that. We wanted to help people make essential oil-based products, not just using essential oils. And we found Lisa, who is incredibly passionate and incredibly knowledgeable about all things natural formulation. And she will take any task and see it as a fun challenge to overcome, and brag about the mistakes she made along the way and what they taught her. Petra, that's a fun story with Petra Rataitz, who is teaching our kinetics classes and our Beyond the Bottle. We accidentally launched her website before her website, her personal blog, before she was ready to launch, because it somehow ended up in our search. She wrote an incredible blog post about finding reliable resources when you're looking for essential oil information. And we somehow found that post and we featured it in our newsletter. And it was before she officially announced her website in English to anyone, because we loved her perspective on things, and we loved her unique expertise, because she's a biologist and a botanist. So she has the knowledge about plants and making herbariums and being really hands-on with the plant side of things. But she's also a bioscientist, so she understands the cellular level of everything with our body and with the plants. So it's an incredibly unique combination of knowledge, and finding these people to work with has been it's one of my favorite parts of being at the Tisserand Institute, is working with people who are as passionate as we are about learning and finding stuff out. I love that. I love that we've grown, and I love that we've grown so that we don't entirely depend on Robert's capacity to teach things. I think that's important too.
Happy about that too.
Yes.
When you guys are imagining, or like when you were first imagining, and now when you imagine your students going through these courses, and what you think that they're going to get out of these courses, what are your big hopes and dreams for all the students of the Tisserand Institute?
I don't want students to become me. People sometimes say, "Oh, I wish I had your brain, Robert." I understand the sentiment. I have a lot of facts stuffed in here, and what isn't stuffed in here, I have a dozen filing cabinets that I can rummage through for research papers. But I like seeing students, absorb knowledge and blossom, as I said earlier, getting it. Okay, there's this, and here's how they're connected. And here's why if you do this, this will happen, or that might happen, or that might not happen. And it all sounds very abstract, but people come very often with things they've seen online. So I've seen this online. Is it safe? Well, 9 times out of 10, blindfolded, I could say no. If you saw it online, it's probably not safe. If you're asking, if you're not sure, chances are it's not safe. There's so much misinformation, and when people come to us, they get cleansed of the misinformation to some extent, at least, as well as absorbing the good information.
Are you saying we're deprogramming people?
I think we are, not intentionally. Yeah.
I'm going to bounce off of that, and what I love is to sort of see people have those aha moments, and then coming from, okay, I saw this online, is it true, to I saw this online and I now understand why it isn't, or where the grain of truth is, because that's usually the case with misinformation generally, is that you have a grain of truth somewhere, and then from that you take it and you stretch it as far as possible around that truth. So going from I saw this, can you tell me if it's true, to I saw this and I can tell for myself now, that's what I hope to see.
Example of a myth is what I have called the oxygenation myth. So there was this idea, seen in several blog posts, that essential oils contain oxygen, and they go throughout your body distributing this oxygen to your cells. Isn't it wonderful? Make sense? Many essential oils do contain oxygen, but it's in the form of a molecule. It's molecular oxygen, not free oxygen. We get oxygen from the air that we breathe. It's a system that has evolved over millennia or whatever. So, our body is attuned to getting oxygen from the air that we breathe in. We do not get oxygen from essential oils. What we may get from essential oils is oxidation products. And these are nasty, nasty things, because oxygen in some forms is fine. In other forms, it's actually very toxic. And you wouldn't want these essential oils to be distributing oxygen. This wouldn't be a good thing. It's done in a controlled fashion through hemoglobin.
So this is an example of Robert's facts in the hand, and how you get to understand that through our lessons and through our courses. You get to do exactly that with your brain. So while you may not become Robert, you learn how to think like a scientist, which is a fun way to think. It's just being, questioning things and, oh, wonderful. Oh, that's fascinating. I wonder how that works. Yeah.
When the word science gets brought up, I know a lot of people get really intimidated, and they think, oh man, this is going to be way over my head. This is probably not for me. It's probably too in depth. What would you say to people who are not sure if these courses are going to be the right thing for them, the right direction for them?
Can I start with this one?
You may.
Thank you. I think that we have managed to separate science, unfortunately, from our everyday life, which is really not the case, and also from what we call traditional medicine. And I'd like to point out that any traditional medicine is not just a random practice, just like somebody picked a plant, decided that's good for them. No, traditional medicine is based on years and years and decades and centuries of collecting information, of conducting experiments, of sharing that information. And there is a reason why if you pick up a herbal, you will find out Melissa tea is good for calming the nervous system. And the reason is that there is a clinical trial going on for all the time that we have used Melissa tea in this way, and we've observed this effect. So I think
what you're saying is we have been one massive clinical trial. That's what you're saying.
Well, what I'm also saying, well, what I'm saying is that it would be wrong to divide traditional herbal medicine and, you know, traditional practices and saying they're unscientific, and also saying that science is too scary and too complicated, because we're constantly living in science. The fact that we have light, the fact that we're talking to you now across the United States, that's all science. What we're trying to do is help people understand that while it may sound big and complicated and like you need a lot of time and bandwidth to get to it, it actually isn't. And all you need is a curious brain, a curious mind, wanting to understand.
I'd also say it's the science of nature. So we're learning about the human body, we're learning about plants, we're learning about essential oils, and how the essential oils and the human body talk to each other. And that really is a fun exercise. And yes, we do have to use some scientific terms. We have to talk about dose. We have to talk about, okay, at this dose, it might do this, but at this dose, it might have completely different effect, which we see with phenols in essential oils, with eugenol, thymol, and carboxyl. They have quite different effects at different doses. So a low dose is antioxidant. That's good. A high dose is pro-oxidant. That's not good. So the same thing has actually opposite effects in different dose forms or different dosages. So yeah, there's that kind of thing, numbers and math and names of chemicals and essential oils. That's all science, sciencey stuff.
We help you understand that, because that's the point. We're not trying to pretend like because we can read research and we can understand what's said there that we're somehow above or better than anybody else. It's just like, okay, we're going to help you understand that too. We're going to help you understand what this says, and we're going to help you figure out that you need to base your decisions, especially if it's related to health of yourself or anybody else. You need to base them on something, on some solid knowledge, and that usually comes in the form of science in one way or another.
When I wrote my first book, which I will now introduce, sorry about that, introduce you to The Art of Aromatherapy, which came out in 1977. When I wrote that book, I looked for scientific research. I couldn't find much at all. I found a little bit, and it's in the book. There's 10 or 20 research papers were cited. And because I couldn't find very much, I spent time delving into the history, reading old herbal books, looking for information on essential oils. Now we have so much scientific data on essential oils, so much. Tens of thousands of research papers have been published since I wrote that book. Why not make use of it? It's there, it's interesting. I think the challenge for practitioners is they can't read all the research. Some practitioners never read research because it's intimidating. I completely understand that. I don't think practitioners should be required to read research. Not necessarily. Depends what kind of training they've had. But basically, we read the research so you don't have to. We interpret it so you don't have to. We reject the bad research so you don't have to know about how to do that. You can do those things too, of course. But that's how we act as a sort of a connection point.
A translator, if you want.
An interpreter.
An interpreter.
Yeah.
So looking forward, I know that you guys have some new courses in the works, and you guys are always doing some new stuff. What do you envision the Institute becoming in the years to come?
Well, yeah, we do have new courses. We have a new course running very soon from now. We have another new course running later this year, 2024. And we have another new course planned, at least one, I think two, for next year. We're trying to hold back a little bit so we don't get too crazy with new stuff, because there's only a few of us, and we need to be able to administrate everything.
I think I hope for the Tisserand Institute to be more of the same thing. So to continue to be the hub of this is what's happening in the world of essential science and research. And if you want to use essential oils, that's usually how I pitch the Tisserand Institute if someone's asking me what I do. I said, well, whatever you do with your essential oils, we have information for you. Wherever you get your essential oils, we have information for you. So I want to continue to be that reliable source for anyone who wants to use essential oils, and to be a reliable source for those who are in the field, either teaching or practicing, to come to us to check in on what's new and what they should be paying attention to. I love that aspect of the Tisserand Institute, and love seeing people coming say, okay, I've been teaching for 20 years, but I come to you guys to see what's new so that I don't have to spend time on digging that for myself. So
we do have a lot of people who train with us who also teach in their own right. And we are very much a global institution, so we reach people all over the world. I mean, most of our audience is in North America, but there's also, I mean, that's only, 60%? And then it's the other 40%, which is the rest of the world.
I think that's another part of what I want to see for the Tisserand Institute, is to bring more languages in. We have currently limited courses offerings in Japanese and in Chinese, and we're hoping to bring in Spanish, Portuguese, possibly. So that's another hope. Of course, being asked, it's not as simple as just putting subtitles on our courses. We want to recreate the whole experience, the cohort, the support for everyone going through the courses. So that's why it's taking a little longer. But I think that's my hope for the future as well.
And as well as doing the sciencey stuff, we'll also be doing more fun stuff.
I think we're doing fun stuff.
Okay. Non-sciencey fun stuff.
Non-sciencey fun stuff. Okay.
Do you guys have anything that stands out to you as being your favorite thing about owning and operating the Tisserand Institute?
Do you want to think about that?
Well, I think it's very cool that we can do this, and that, there are enough people interested in what we're doing. And I think one of the reasons that Hannah and I have been successful over the last 10 years is what I did in the previous 40 years, is really building a reputation for myself as an authority on safety, and maybe in other areas too. So, I think there's been, it's nice for me to it feels good to me to sort of see my own legacy, if you like, in real time. I don't know if that sentence made any sense.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you get it.
Yeah. And my favorite thing, what I love is the people. What I love is working with the tutors. I think I already talked about their passion. It's wonderful to see them. Many of them didn't teach before. And we told them, we basically came to them and said, listen, we like what you're saying, and we would love for you to teach it. And we're going to help you do that. We're going to help you with the courses. We're going to help you develop them. We're going to help you facilitate them. All you need to do is share your knowledge. And I love that on that side of things. I absolutely love working with the tutors and getting them to where they just show up and present and get to do that. And I get to provide them all the support behind the scenes to be able to do that. And
you, Rachel, play your part too.
Yeah. And I love I just want to finish this thought, because then on the other side are the students, and helping them achieve their goals and helping them finish the course and get their certificate and feel accomplished and feel not just that they got a piece of paper that they finished, but feeling like, I now understand. I now feel more confident. I feel confident in trying things out. I feel confident enough to be creative in my practice or in my use of essential oils, because I feel like I know how to do it safely. I know how to do it in the best possible way. I love seeing that as well. And I love hearing that feedback as well. And I love the whole team.
Somehow it works to have people who have a chemistry PhD and someone who has no knowledge of chemistry in the same class.
Yeah.
And somehow it works. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how we do that. It's kind of incredible.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if that can be a favorite part of mine, because I honestly don't know how, if you asked how we do that. I do not know, but that's what happened. We try to achieve that in some way, that anyone with any level of knowledge can take something from the courses. And we managed to do that. I'm glad that we did that. I'm proud of that, really. Yeah.
And Rachel, you help us. You help us by sending out messages saying, "Hey, there's a thing happening. You should do it."
Yes. Yeah. And if anybody listening is interested in all the things that I do, there is a video on the website talking all about the things that I do for the Tisserand Institute and how I was found by you guys very serendipitously.
Yes, we picked you up out of the gutter as well, didn't we? Sorry, no,
that's a horrible thing.
Absolutely not true.
No,
I didn't say that.
It was a similar process, because we stumbled upon your cat blog post.
Yeah, we saw a blog post and thought
about cats and essential oils.
Not only does she seem to know what she's talking about, but she's a scientist.
And she's a plant person. That's another wonderful thing about the Tisserand Institute team. We're all somehow dabbling in natural sciences or essential oils and nature, and that's what connects us too. So that's pretty amazing.
And I think what's wonderful is that I read a lot of research, and one thing I notice is everyone's a specialist. When you write a research paper, you're a specialist. You're an oncologist or a chemist or a toxicologist. That's your specialism. And that means you may not understand the jargon of other specialisms. But what we're doing is we're embracing all these specialisms and all the jargon, which actually is quite a lot. And yeah, I had a sort of realization of that. Actually, we're taking on more, in a sense, than some of these experts. They know one subject, and we're learning about many. Not to the same depth, I admit.
Yeah, but we also have people to tap if we need to. Yeah, them into, okay, well, this is beyond what we can understand. Can you help us? It's just don't want to sound like we're saying that we understand everything. We don't. If we did that, we wouldn't be bringing on more tutors. But yeah, it's quite wonderful for sure. Yeah.
So here we are.
Here we are, 10 years on.
Yeah, well, congrats again on 10 years of the Tisserand Institute. And I think everybody listening is very excited to see what you guys are going to do next.
Thank you.
And so are we.
So are we. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you guys.